Senate blocks Canada tariffs. Trump faces rare revolt. If you're watching Washington right now, this isn't politics as usual. This is a political earthquake. Just hours ago, the United States Senate did something almost unthinkable. It stepped in and stopped President Donald Trump from launching sweeping 25% tariffs on Canada. And the vote? It wasn't even close. This wasn't a narrow procedural fight. This was a bipartisan shutdown of the president's trade authority, a direct rebuke from members of his own party. Let's break down what just happened and why it matters to every American wallet. What sparked the crisis? Last week, President Trump announced plans to impose a 25% universal tariff on Canadian imports: oil, automobiles, lumber, dairy, food products, everything crossing the northern border. He framed it as leverage, a pressure tactic, a way to force concessions from Ottawa on trade and border issues. He relied on Section 232, a national security provision that allows a president to impose tariffs without congressional approval. It's a powerful tool, and Trump has used it before. But this time, something changed. Canada didn't panic. Prime Minister Mark Carney didn't escalate. Instead, he did something quieter and arguably more effective. He went straight to the math. The strategy that changed everything. Behind the scenes, Canadian officials reportedly spent days contacting U.S. governors, senators, and business leaders. They didn't threaten retaliation. They didn't make dramatic speeches. They showed numbers. They showed what would happen to auto manufacturing in Michigan, energy costs in the Midwest, agricultural exports in Pennsylvania, supply chains in Ohio and Tennessee. The message was simple. A trade war wouldn't hurt Canada alone. It would slam American states, especially swing states, within days. And then came the tipping point. Major U.S. auto manufacturers and energy companies reportedly warned Senate readership that if the tariffs took effect, assembly lines could shut down within 48 hours. Gas prices could spike by up to 40 cents per gallon. Cross-border supply chains could freeze almost instantly. This wasn't political theory. This was economic reality. The vote that shocked Washington. Tonight, the Senate passed a bipartisan resolution limiting the president's ability to impose these tariffs without congressional approval. The final vote, 74-26. In today's polarized climate, that kind of margin is extraordinary. Most importantly, dozens of Republicans broke ranks. These weren't longtime Trump critics. They were senators from conservative states, lawmakers who typically stand firmly behind the president. But this time, they chose economic stability over party loyalty. One senator reportedly said privately, "I can't sell a recession to my voters just to make a point." That line says everything. Why this is bigger than tariffs. This vote isn't just about Canada. It signals something deeper. Congress reclaiming trade authority, business pressure overriding political messaging, a visible crack inside the Republican coalition. For years, trade policy has largely been driven by executive action, but today, Congress hit the brakes. And for the first time in this presidency, the resistance didn't come from the opposition party alone. It came from within. What it means for you. If the tariffs had gone into effect Monday, everyday Americans could have seen higher gas prices, more expensive vehicles, rising grocery costs, supply shortages in key industries. Instead, those immediate impacts have been paused, possibly prevented. That's why this vote matters far beyond Washington. It's about inflation. It's about supply chains. It's about whether economic decisions are driven by political leverage or economic data. The political fallout. The White House has strongly criticized the vote. Supporters argue the president was using tariffs as negotiation leverage. Critics argue Congress just prevented an unavoidable economic shock. What's undeniable is this. This was a rare bipartisan alignment and a rare public challenge to presidential authority. The bigger question now is what happens next. Does the administration escalate? Do negotiations resume? Or does this mark a turning point in how trade power is exercised? Final takeaway. This wasn't just another Senate vote. It was a moment where economic pressure met political power, and political power blinked. A proposed trade war was stopped not by rhetoric, but by numbers, markets, and lawmakers worried about their voters. And whether you live near the Canadian border or thousands of miles away, this decision could affect what you pay at the pump, at the dealership, and at the grocery store. History didn't explode tonight. It shifted, and Washington may not look the same tomorrow.